Hi guys, it's
Lauren Daisy.
welcome back to my channel. Today we're doing a kind of different video because usually I feel like it's like a deep dive or we're gonna we're gonna properly get into it, share my opinions and everything. But no, today is purely informative. A fun fact for you, if you didn't know, every single episode of Gossip Girl is a pun of a movie title, or I think there's one or two TV show titles, right? We're going to go through every single episode, every single season. I'm going to tell you the episode title and also the movie that inspired that episode. Let's just get straight into the list. We're going to start obviously with season 1, and now the pilot is just the pilot. That is just the name of the first episode of any TV show, so there's nothing there. Episode 2 is called The Wild Brunch, and this is based on the film The Wild Bunch. Obviously, this episode is where we have the iconic brunch. Number 3 is Poison Ivy, which is just Poison Ivy, which they don't do too often. Usually they'll tweak it in a different way to obviously match the tone of the show, but for this one they just went for the straight copy. Episode 4 is called Bad News Blair, and this is based on Bad News Bears. For episode 5, they did a similar thing where it's called Daredevil and it's based on Daredevil, but the way that they spelt it is different. So for the original, it is one word, and for the Gossip Girl title, it is 2 separate words. This is the episode where Jenny and Blair play Truth or Dare. Episode 6 is called The Handmaiden's Tale, and the original is called The Handmaid's Tale. Episode 7 is called Victor Victrola, and the original is called Victor Victoria. This is the episode where Chuck buys the club, or it's like a kind of like speakeasy, I don't even know what you call it, Victrola. Number 8 is 17 Candles, and this is based on the movie 16 Candles. This episode takes place on Blair's 17th birthday. Episode number 9 is called Blair Waldorf Must Pie, and this is based on the movie John Tucker Must Die. And this is also a double fun fact because John Tucker Must Die also actually features Penn Badgley, who plays Dan Humphrey. This is the Thanksgiving episode, so obviously it is in reference to like pumpkin pie, and that is a big plot point with Blair and her dad, that they make pumpkin pie together. Also, John Tucker Must Die is a great movie. I love that movie. And I think there's a few on here that are like just my favourites that I think are really funny, and Blair Waldorf Must Pie is definitely up there. Episode 10 is called High Society, and this is based on High Society, but they've just changed the spelling. This is when we see the girls having their debut into society at the debutante ball. Now, episode 11 is called Roman Holiday, and it's based on Roman Holiday. They're spelled exactly the same, but I'm guessing, to be fair, I've never heard anyone say it out loud, but I'm guessing it's Roman Holiday because this is the episode where Roman and Harold come to visit Blair for Christmas. Episode 12 is called School Lies, and this is based on School Ties. We have another one of my favourites. This episode 13 is called A Thin Line Between Chuck and Nate, and this is based on a thin line between love and hate, and that one's just so clever. I think it's so good. And this is obviously where Blair, it is revealed that Blair had slept with Chuck and you know, is kind of also seeing Nate, and it is when she has to take her pregnancy test. And I don't know if this is also a nod to it, but obviously on a pregnancy test you have 2 lines, and if it's one line then it's negative, if it's 2 lines then it's positive. So if there had been another thin line, it would have been, is it Chuck's or Nate's? Again, another one of my absolute favourites. I think it's just gold. We have The Blair Bitch Project, which is obviously based on the horror film The Blair Witch Project. Episode 15 is called Desperately Seeking Serena, and this is based on the movie Desperately Seeking Susan. Episode 16 is called All About My Brother, and the original is called All About My Mother. Episode 17 is called Woman on the Verge, and this is a shortened version of Woman on the Verge of a Nervous Breakdown. Number 18, which is fun because this is the episode with Lily and Bart's wedding, is called Much I Do About Nothing, and this is obviously comes from Much Ado About Nothing. Now we're going to move on to season 2. So episode 1 is called Summer Kind of Wonderful, and this is a play on the title Some Kind of Wonderful. Episode 2 is called Never Been Marcused, because obviously this is when we are meeting Marcus Beaton, and this is a parody of the film Never Been Kissed. Episode 3 is called The Dark Knight, and we actually get a blackout in this episode, and it is based on the Batman film The Dark Knight. It's just spelt differently. This is another fun one, and I think one of the only ones based on a TV show. Episode 4 is called The X-Files, based on the show The X-Files, but I just think it's so cute, like the fact that it's like X is in ex-partner. I just think that's adorable. Episode 5 is called The Serena Also Rises, and this is based on The Sun Also Rises. Episode 6 is called New Haven Can Wait, and this is based on Heaven Can Wait, and this is the episode where they go to Yale, which is in New Haven. Episode 7 is called Chuck in Real Life, which is funny because it is based on the film Dan in Real Life. Episode 8 is called Pret-a-Porter or Pret-a-Porter. Yeah, I think I'm pronouncing that right. And this is based on Pret-a-Porter, and this is obviously in reference to Little J. Episode 9 is called There Might Be Blood, and this is based on There Will Be Blood. Episode 10 is called Bonfire of the Vanity, and this is based on Bonfire of the Vanities. Episode 11 is called The Magnificent Archibalds, and this is based on The Magnificent Ambersons. And I think this is the Thanksgiving episode where Howard comes back and tries to kidnap Nate for ransom. Episode 12 is called It's a Wonderful Lie, and this is based on the movie It's a Wonderful Life. Episode 13 is called Oh Brother, Where Bart Thou, and this is based on Oh Brother, Where Art Thou, and this is the episode with Bart's funeral. Episode 14 is called In the Realm of Basses, A No Corrida, and that translates to In the Realm of the Senses. Episode 15 is called Gone with the Will, and this is based on the movie Gone with the Wind, and this is the episode where Bart's will is read to Chuck. Episode 16 is called You've Got Yale, and this is based on You've Got Mail. This is the episode where Dan, Serena and Blair find out if they have been accepted into Yale or not. Episode 17 is called Carnal Knowledge, and this is based on Carnal Knowledge, but it is spelt with 2 R's in the Gossip Girl title because this is where we have the relationship between Dan and Rachel Carr, the teacher. Episode 18 is called The Age of Dissonance, and it is based on The Age of Innocence, and this is also the episode where they act out the play The Age of Innocence. That's the play that they're performing at the school. Episode 19 is called The Grandfather, and this is based on the original Godfather movie, and this is where we meet Nate's grandfather for the first time, and where we kind of see that he is that kind of head of the family figure, kind of has control over a lot, holds a lot of weight in society. Episode 20 is called The Remains of the J, and this is based on The Remains of the Day. Episode 21 is called Cedar Anything, and this is based on Say Anything, and this episode is where Cyrus introduces the Waldorfs to the festivity of Cedar, which is a Jewish holiday. Episode 22 is called Southern Gentlemen Prefer Blondes, and this is based on Gentlemen Prefer Blondes, and I think it's Southern Gentlemen because at this time Serena was dating Gabriel, and I think he has a southern accent. Is that why they did that? Maybe I've just made that up. Episode 23 is called The Wrath of Khan, and this is based on Star Trek The Wrath of Khan. And this is the episode where they kind of discovered that Gabriel and Poppy are con artists. Episode 24 is called Valley Girls, and this is based on Valley Girl. And I think they did Valley Girls because it's the one with the flashbacks to when Lily and her sister Carol were younger. And they were also planning on doing a spin-off called Valley Girls about the two of them. Episode 25, the finale, is called The Goodbye Gossip Girl, and this is based on The Goodbye Girl. And this is because in this episode, they're kind of trying to take Gossip Girl down. And I guess also saying goodbye because this is when they graduate from St. Jude's and Constance. Now we're going to move on to season 3. So the first episode is called Reversals of Fortune, and this is based on Reversal of Fortune. Episode 2 is called The Freshman, based on The Freshman. And it is obviously spelt this way because they are now freshmen at college. Episode 3 is called The Lost Boy, and this is based on the movie The Lost Boys. Episode 4 is called Dan de Florette, I think it's pronounced, and this is based on Jean de Florette. Episode 5 is called Rufus Getting Married, and this is based on Rachel getting married, and this is the episode where Lily marries Rufus. Episode 6 is called Enough About Eve, and this is a play on the title All About Eve. Episode 7 is called How to Succeed in Bassness, and this is based on how to succeed in business without really trying. And I think this is the episode where Chuck buys his hotel and like kind of is taking the reins of Bass Industries. maybe. Episode 8 is called The Grandfather Part 2, and this is based on, obviously, The Godfather Part 2, when we see Nate kind of tussling with that whole side of his family again, the Vanderbilts. Episode 9 is called They Shoot Humphreys, Don't They? And this is based on They Shoot Horses, Don't They? Episode 10, this one is so ridiculous, is called The Last Days of Disco Stick, and this is based on The Last Days of Disco, but it is also in reference to Lady Gaga's song Disco Stick, because this is the episode where Blair, Dan and Vanessa and Olivia Burke make a musical full of Lady Gaga songs, and Lady Gaga actually performs in this episode at the very end. Episode 11 is another one of my favourites, and it is called The Treasure of Serena Madre, and this is based on The Treasure of the Sierra Madre. Episode 12 is called The Departed, and this is based on The Departed. I think this was the anniversary of Bart's death, this episode, and we get to see him like as a ghost. He like comes back as a ghost and kind of haunts Chuck for a little bit. Episode 13 is called The Hurt Locket, and this is based on The Hurt Locker, and this is because this is the episode where Chuck is searching for his mum because she left the gold locket on Bart's grave. Episode 14 is called The Lady Vanished, and this is based on The Lady Vanishes. Episode 15 is called The 16-Year-Old Virgin, and this is based on the film The 40-Year-Old Virgin, and this is the episode where Jenny is really determined to lose her virginity, even though if you know me, you watch my videos, you know I hate that term, to Damien Dalgard. This is probably my absolute favourite one. I think it is just absolutely quality. So episode 16 is called The Empire Strikes Jack, and this is obviously based on the Star Wars movie The Empire Strikes Back. Episode 17 is called Inglourious Bastards, and this is based on Inglourious Bastards, but it is spelt like bass. Episode 18 is called The Unbearable Lightness of Being, and this is based on The Unbearable Lightness of Being. Episode 19 is called Doctor Strange Love, and this is based on Doctor Strange Love, and this is because in this episode, I don't know if he comes back in this episode or if he's already returned, but there's a big focus on William in this episode, who is obviously a doctor, and he abandoned Serena and Eric when they were children, so he is kind of their estranged father. So Doctor Estranged Love. Yeah. Episode 20 is called It's a Dad World, and this is based on It's a Mad World. I think I got one of those wrong. But this is kind of Rufus versus William, so we've got a bit of dad versus dad going on. Episode 21 is called Ex-Husbands and Wives, and this is based on Husbands and Wives. Episode 22, the finale, is called Last Tango Then Paris, and this is based on Last Tango in Paris. I think this is because, we have a lot going on, kind of like the Last Tango, and then Blair and Serena fly to Paris to spend the summer there at the end of this episode. Now we're on to season 4, and the first episode is called Belle de Jour, or Belles de Jour, and the original is called Belle de Jour. And I guess this is just because there's two Belles. We have Serena and Blair. Episode 2 is called Double Identity, and this is the exact same as the original. Episode 3 is called The Undergraduates, and this is based on The Underneath, because obviously now they're undergraduates, I think, still. Obviously, they're still at college. Episode 4 is called A Touch of Ava, and this is based on A Touch of Evil, and this is because we are now seeing Ava, who is Chuck's new girlfriend, kind of coming back into the Upper East Side. In fact, I think this might be the episode where she breaks up with him. Episode 5 is called Goodbye Columbia, and this is based on Goodbye Lenin, and this is obviously when we have our whole drama with Serena and Blair, and Columbia, Juliet, and all that stuff. Episode 6 is called Easy J, and this is based on Easy A, which I absolutely love. It's one of my favourite movies, and this is also a fun nod because Penn Badgley, who plays Dan, was in this one as well. Episode 7 is called War at the Roses, and this is based on The War at Home, which is another TV series one as opposed to a movie. Episode 8 is called Juliet Doesn't Live Here Anymore, and this is based on Alice Doesn't Live Here Anymore. And this is the episode, I think, where Dan and Blair try and track Juliet down at her home to hold her accountable for what she did to Serena. Episode 9 is called The Witches of Bushwick, and this is based on The Witches of Eastwick. And I can't remember why. Well, firstly, it's kind of like a Halloween episode, so that's the whole witches part of it. But I think there's something to do with Bushwick, like maybe Juliet lives there, or maybe because Blair's like trying to become the face of Girls Inc. or something. It's something to do. That's something to do with Bushwick? I can't remember, but they definitely mention it in the show, so it is relevant. Episode 10 is called Gaslit, and this is based on Gaslight, which is very apt because this is the episode where basically everyone tries to convince Serena that she had an overdose, even though she didn't, and it was Juliet. Episode 11 is called The Townie, and this is based on The Town. Episode 12 is called The Kids Are Not Alright, and this is based on The Kids Are Alright. Episode 13 is called Damien Darko, and this is based on Donnie Darko. And this is the episode where I think Damien comes back after he like befriended Eric, and he's like trying to get them to do a drug deal, or they owe him money, and him and Ben have like a little fight maybe. Episode 14 is called Panic Roommate, and this is based on Panic Room. Episode 15 is called It Girl Happened One Night, and this is based on It Happened One Night. Episode 16 is called While You Weren't Sleeping, and this is based on While You Were Sleeping. Episode 17 is called Empire of the Sun, and this is based on Empire of the Sun, but for the Gossip Girl episode it is spelt S-O-N. Episode 18 is another direct copy, and it is called The Kids Stay in the Picture, and this, I believe, is the episode where they are all taking family portraits for the modern royalty shoot. Episode 19 is called Petty in Pink, and this is based on Pretty in Pink, and this is where they have the pink themed party. Episode 20 is called The Princesses and the Frog, and this is based on The Princess and the Frog. Episode 21 is called Shattered Bass, and this is based on Shattered Glass. I feel like maybe this is because Chuck was having a really hard time with Blair being engaged, I think, maybe. And then the season finale, episode 22, is called The Wrong Goodbye, and this is based on The Wrong Guy. And I don't know if that was kind of like foreshadowing that Blair picking Louis at the end of this episode instead of, you know, Chuck, and she says goodbye to Chuck, if that was the wrong decision, maybe? That's interesting. I hadn't thought about that until just now. Now we're moving on to season 5, and the first episode of season 5 is called Yes, Then Zero, and this is based on Less Than Zero. Episode 2 is called The Beauty and the Feast, and this is based on The Beauty and the Beast, and in this episode, Blair is invited to this big feast by the Grimaldis. Episode 3 is called The Jewel of Denial, and this is based on The Jewel of the Nile. Episode 4 is called Memoirs of an Invisible Dan, and this is based on Memoirs of an Invisible Man, and this is the episode where Dan's book gets published. Episode 5 is called The Fasting and the Furious, and this is based on The Fast and the Furious. Episode 6 is called I Am Number 9, and this is based on I Am Number 4. Now, episode 7 is actually a combination of two. So it's called The Big Sleep No More, and this is based on a movie called The Big Sleep, but also a theatre production called Sleep No More. And they combine the two, and this, in this episode, is actually when they all attend this, I don't even really know how to explain it. It's like they all walk around and the theatre production is kind of happening around them or something like that. But that's what happens in this episode. Episode 8 is called All the Pretty Sources, and this is based on All the Pretty Horses. Episode 9 is called Roads to Perdition, and the title is the same, except it is changed to be spelt like Rhodes, as in Lily Rhodes, Charlotte Rhodes, Carol Rhodes, and this episode has a big centre around that side of the family. Episode 10 is called Riding in Town Cars with Boys, and this is based on Riding in Cars with Boys. This is the episode where Chuck and Blair get into their car accident. Episode 11 is called The End of the Affair, with a question mark, and this is just based on The End of the Affair. But I think that's kind of nodding to the fact that now it wasn't technically an affair, but Blair did choose to be with Chuck while she was still with Louis, but it's like, is this the end of that now? Because Chuck's really confused when he discovers that Blair doesn't want to be with him anymore. Episode 12 is called Father and the Bride, and this is based on Father of the Bride. Episode 13, which I think is the 100th episode, is called Gigi, as in Gossip Girl, and this is based on the movie Gigi, spelled like this. Episode 14 is called The Backup Dan, and this is based on The Backup Plan, and this is a nod to how when things go really south with Louis at the wedding, Dan is the person that she calls and they try to kind of figure out what they're going to do next. Episode 15 is called Crazy Cupid Love, and this is based on Crazy Stupid Love, and this is the Valentine's Day episode. Episode 16 is called Crossroads, and this is based on Crossroads, again spelt as two separate words, and roads is spelt as in Lily and Carol. Episode 17 is called The Princess Dowry, and this is based on The Princess Diaries. This is because in this episode, I think Blair is finally free from her marriage to Louis, and Chuck did this in secret by just paying the dowry, so paying the amount of money the Grimaldis wanted to release her from the marriage. And this is also a little fun one because The Princess Diaries actually had Cyrus in it as well, so that's kind of fun nod there. Episode 18 is called Con Air, and the film is also called Con Air, but it is spelt differently as in the heir to the throne. Episode 19 is called It Girl Interrupted, and this is based on Girl Interrupted, and in this episode Serena is trying to make Lola into the new It Girl. Episode 20 is called Salon of the Dead, or I think it might be Saloon of the Dead. And this is based on Shaun of the Dead, which is such a good movie. And in this episode, Dan and Blair host a saloon, I think it's called, as kind of their way of coming out as a couple. It's like a party, but it has a specific theme, or like a dinner party. I can't really remember. But yeah, it's something like that. Episode 21 is called Despicable B, and this is based on Despicable Me. Episode 22 is called Raiders of the Lost Art, and this is based on Raiders of the Lost Ark. Episode 23 is called The Fugitives, and this is based on The Fugitive. Episode 24, the finale, is called The Return of the Ring, and this is based on the Lord of the Rings movie, The Return of the King. Okay, now we're on to season 6. So the first episode is called Gone Baby Gone, and this is based on Gone Baby Gone. Episode 2 is called High Infidelity, and that's the exact same as the movie. Episode 3 is called Dirty Rotten Scandals, and this is based on the movie Dirty Rotten Scoundrels. Episode 4 is called The Portrait of Lady Alexander, and this is based on the movie The Portrait of a Lady. And this is because this is the episode where Blair and Chuck go to try and find this horse called Lady Alexandra, and there's like a painting of it and all this stuff, and it kind of links back to Bart, like, buying horses or something as a way to disguise oil trading or something like that. It was when they're trying to, get Bart sent to prison. Episode 5 is called Monstrous Ball, and this is based on Monsters Ball. This is another one that I really like. Episode 6 is called Where the Vile Things Are, and this is based on Where the Wild Things Are. Episode 7 is called Save the Last Chance, and this is based on Save the Last Dance. Episode 8 is called It's Really Complicated, and this is a play on It's Complicated. And the final two are so good. They are just so good. So episode 9 is called The Revengers, and this is obviously based on the Avengers. And in this episode, Blair kind of assembles her own team of Avengers: Serena, Sage, Georgina, and Ivy, to kind of help her take down Bart Bass. And then episode 10, the final ever episode of Gossip Girl, is called New York, I Love You XOXO, and this is based on New York, I Love You. And just adding the little XOXO, I feel like it was the perfect title for the season finale. So that is it. That is all 121 episodes of Gossip Girl, all of their titles, and the movie that inspired them. I know this video is a bit different, but I thought that it would be kind of fun. So yeah, let me know down in the comments which ones are your favourites. I think The Empire Strikes Back, I think those are probably my favourites. Those ones are really good. But yes, I will see you guys in my next video. Bye.